So like I was saying, one of these amazing things about meditation is that you learn to observe this process of self. So you get to know how the self bubbles up and sort of congeals and seems so real, and then how it deconstructs and evaporates, vanishes. And you can watch that process. If you get really practiced at noticing mental talk and noticing emotional sensations, you can watch the process of self arising and passing. Same way you can watch my hand going up and down. Like, it's as simple as that. It just takes practice. So why is this useful? I mean, the self, this me, is what is running the show. And it's a good idea to get to know that thing and to maybe have some choice. Maybe a broader perspective. So for me, the self that manifests, the self that arose most often, before I got into all this meditation stuff, was a self that was suffering almost all of the time. It was a self that was in one crazy dysfunctional relationship after another. When I share it with somebody, they can't believe it. I'm like, oh yeah, I had a relationship that involved restraining orders and broken windows and glass and police with guns. Like, people are like, what do you mean? Like, how could that be? I'm like, yeah, well, that was my life before. Well, that is an extreme example, but there are a lot of them that are equally as extreme in my life before, because I was very stuck in a certain manifestation of self. It was a self that was constantly grasping and constantly resisting, trying to get rid of anything that didn't feel good and trying to hold on to anything that did, which that leads, without question, to suffering. Right? Because what do we know? We know that everything changes. It just does. Even if you marry your high school sweetheart and you stay together forever, you're both going to change within that time. Even if you never split up, you're going to change. There's going to be change. There's going to be illness. There's going to be kids or no kids. There's going to be this whole process of evolution that you go through. And then one day, one of you is going to die. And then that person will be gone. So this idea that we can hold on to anything, I mean, that just wipes that right off. Just wipes it right away. It's not possible. Because each and every one of us and each and every person that we know and each and every animal that we know will die. We know that. For me, there's something very comforting about that. It's nice to know something, because I don't know anything. I have no idea what happens after every human and animal dies, and every plant and everything else. I have no idea what happens, but I do know that that's going to happen. They might be able to extend it a lot longer in the near future, but they're not going to eradicate death. So we know that for sure. But then there's all these little deaths throughout any given day, throughout any given moment. These moments of vanishing, these moments of cessation, these moments of, and now it's gone. So when you are stuck in and believing in a self that is clinging and just trying its best to get comfortable, to feel like there's solid ground when there's not, then you're wired for suffering. And that's what I was. And then on top of that, I had years of conditioning, growing up with a crazy childhood and everything that did to my brain, right? And all the sort of patterns and relationships that were built upon very early life experiences. So when we start to learn to observe the self and watch this process of being a me, we start to get a really different perspective. We start to get freedom from just doing whatever that one self thinks it has to do. Because we can step outside and be like, oh, look at that. Look what she's doing. Wow, that must hurt. That looks awful. You start to be able to kind of check it out. And you're like, oh, if I can check it out, if I can see that happening, I must not be that. That must not be me. So wait, is this me? Is the one who's observing that one me? Well, no, not exactly. And then you keep going from there, right? It's like a rabbit hole. So meditation will point us right to that moment of discovery that we are not one solid self. And it happened for all of us earlier when we noticed, oh, there's a thought. When we noticed, oh, there's an emotion. Right? That's that insight. It might not have felt like any big deal, but if you consider it, oh, I was observing a thought. How often do I think I'm my thoughts? I used to think I was my thoughts every single day, all day long. But once you really see that, once you really see that you're not your thoughts, once you really see that you're not your emotions, you can't believe it anymore. You might for a moment, you might for a day, you might for a week. It depends on how deep that insight goes, and it depends on how much you nurture it. But if you nurture that insight, you nurture it through meditation, you nurture it through having conversations with other people who are doing this work, you nurture it through going to classes, working with teachers, reading books. You nurture it by just opening your eyes and seeing the world around you and taking it in. If you nurture it, it gets harder and harder to forget. And that's called being awake. Waking up. Hey, I'm not my mind. I'm not my emotions. And then it gets really interesting. Then it's just possibilities are endless for the exploration and discovery. Just in a really simple way, it changes your life. It changes, well, in a big way, not in a simple way. It completely reconstructs the experience of being a human. When you're no longer walking around thinking you are your mind or you are your emotions. Then suffering truly becomes optional. So the saying, pain is not optional, but suffering is, that is true. Suffering becomes optional. So we're going to take one little piece of this kind of bigger idea and we're going to work with it today. So the one little piece is, it's a big piece actually, but one topic within this topic is loving the self. Loving all those selves. So there's so many that can come up in any given day, depending on what we're trying to avoid or what we're trying to grab onto or what what we're attracted to, what we're running from, what craving we're having, what aversion we're experiencing. There's just all these selves that pop up. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to work with loving all of them. We've done this here before. We'll play around with it today and see what happens with it. And basically we're going to be observing that process of thought and emotion, and then loving it. And so I'll guide you through it. Don't worry about getting it right. In fact, when that voice comes up that says I'm not getting it right, that's what you love. And so you can do this by literally saying, I love you in your mind. Or you can do it by sort of just imagining, sort of energetically loving that part. Or any other way that works for you. You can play around and explore and experiment. If you feel unsure or you feel like you're kind of like not able to sink into the meditation, then just try the I love you thing. Just I love you. This can go for physical pain as well. It can go for physical pleasure. It can go for anything that arises. Anything that arises inside of you, we're going to practice loving it. Does that make sense? So there isn't going to be anything that comes up in your mind or your emotional system that you shouldn't love. And that includes if you suddenly think in your mind, I want to start murdering babies. I hope none of you think that, but now that I've said it, you probably will. Like, images of bloody baby bibs. Anyway. I don't care what it is you're thinking. I don't care if it's violent. I don't care if it's wildly sexual. I don't care if it's completely not spiritual, whatever that means. I want you to love it. Well, this doesn't mean if you have a violent thought, like the terrible one I've imprinted in all of your brains, that you're going to go act on it. No, we're all sane people in this room. And I'm also not saying you're going to engage with it. Like, oh yeah. Like if you start having some sort of sexual thought, I don't want you to just go off and onto a sexual fantasy, right? And, I mean, that's fun, but it's not what we're doing here. What I want you to do instead is to, from a larger perspective, offer love to that part of you. What's going on, Gilbert?
Oh, nothing. Space.
Okay. All right. So, I think that you guys probably get what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it one more way. If something arises within you, and you feel like this part of me does not deserve love, what do you think you're going to do?
I will love it.
Yeah, you're going to love it. Maybe even more than the parts that you like. Maybe you can give it a little extra.
When you say love it, do you mean, what's a good synonym for that?
Accept. Yeah. So accept, but we're trying our best to accept it in a loving way, right? So it's not like I'm trying to accept you. It's like soften and accept. But I do think of love and accept being kind of two sides of the same coin.
Peacefully accept.
Peacefully accepting, I like that. And physical ways you can do this is just by simply relaxing around the experience. That sometimes is all it takes to be able to offer some part of your love. So beginning by settling into your posture, lengthening your spine, then beginning to relax your body over that long spine, relaxing your forehead, relaxing your eyebrows and the space between your eyebrows. Relaxing your eyes and relaxing all those little muscles around your eyes. Those little muscles can get very tight and tense throughout the day. So just inviting them to release. Relaxing down over your cheeks. And into your jaw. Releasing and relaxing your jaw. Letting the mouth drop open a little bit. Really letting it go. And if it feels like your body wants to do this, you can just let out a little sound with that. Just a little sound with an exhale, letting your jaw release as you do it. Letting it go. Relaxing down your neck. Relaxing over your shoulders. Letting those shoulders release. Maybe wiggling. your shoulders a little bit, or moving them up and down a little bit just to release and loosen them. You might allow a little sway, go back and forth in your spine, just kind of allowing the body to release and open. And relaxing down both of your arms. And into your hands. Let's continue to invite that relaxation into the chest. Relaxing down into the stomach. And for most people, there is a kind of tension deep in the stomach, kind of grasping, kind of holding on. And when we sit down and we relax our body, we can begin to invite that deep grasping, begin to let it go. And I can tell you from personal experience that it takes time. And sometimes it releases and then it clenches right back up. And so we're just inviting this to release, to let go. Without any expectation, without any grasping. Relaxing down the sides of your body, sides of the torso, relaxing. And then just using the muscles you need for sitting up, start to invite the back to relax everywhere else. So relax the upper back, between the shoulder blades. Just continuing down the spine, relaxing any part of the back that you can. All the way into the lower back. Start to invite the hips and the butt and the pelvic area to relax. So do the opposite of what you do in yoga class. In yoga class, you draw up the pelvic floor. So here we release it, let it go. Sometimes when we relax in these parts of the body, tension can creep in elsewhere. The jaw can start to lock up. Tension can start to creep into the hands, shoulders. Just keep an eye on that and continue to encourage relaxation throughout the body. I always like to say that relaxing is a really brave thing to do. Because we have tension in our bodies for all kinds of reasons. At some time in our life, for some reason, our body needed to tighten up. And for a lot of us, that happened again and again throughout our life, starting in very early childhood. And so when we start to invite the body to relax, we're asking these parts of ourselves to let go. We're asking them to trust that it's safe to relax. And that's brave. And it doesn't happen all at once. So as we're training the body to relax, very lovingly training the body to relax, we need to be quite patient. And quite respectful, because at one time that tension was doing its job. It just isn't needed anymore. It's not serving us today to be tight, to be tense, to be guarded, defended. Continuing to relax down the legs. And relaxing into the feet. So I'd like you to begin by just noticing relaxation in the body. Perhaps drawing your attention to an area that feels especially relaxed or especially good. And just notice what that feels like. Really feel it with your body. Anchor there for a moment. So at any time during this meditation or during any meditation, you can always return to relaxation. It's always there for you. And if you can't find any relaxation, you can move through the body and intentionally relax like we did in the beginning. That's always a good place to go if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling sleepy, if you're feeling like, I hate this meditation, why did I come here? Just go to relaxation for a moment. Just hang out there for a moment, finding resource in the body. And as we begin to move into this loving of the selves, the many selves, there might be a self that comes up that's really confronting, or that's overwhelming to encounter. And if you start to feel that and it's not feeling like the right direction to go, then just move to relaxation for a while. So this is your practice, and you need to listen to what's right for you. So it's important to be brave, and it's also important to be gentle. It's always okay to shift your posture if you need to. You're not stuck. But just try to be as mindful and as quiet as possible when you make adjustments. And always pause before adjusting to really experience what it is that's making you want to move. So let's begin to observe thought and emotion. You will not be trying to quiet your mind. This meditation is not about turning off your thoughts. So you don't have to quiet the mind. And you don't have to quiet the body. Just allow the mind and body to do whatever it wants to. And then zoom out to a broader perspective and start to offer love to whatever arises. Any version of self that arises in the form of thoughts and emotions gets love. So there's nothing to figure out or decide. You just get to give love to whatever comes up. And we can extend that to include other body sensations that maybe aren't emotional. Like if your leg is really hurting, feel free to offer that achy leg some love. I love you. I love you. This love is unconditional. Love the part of you that's irritated. Love the part of you that's uncomfortable. Love the part of you that's having a great meditation. Love the part of you that thinks this is the insight, this is the one you've been waiting for. Love that part of you that feels like it's all for nothing. Love the parts that embarrass you. Love the parts you don't want anyone to see. Love the parts you show the world. And whenever you find yourself really tangled up with thought, you're taking it personally, you're involved, not in this broader way, but in a more personal way. When you notice that's happened, that's fine. Just step back out while offering the part of you that got pulled into thought love. Step back out and continue to observe and love. Observe and love. Witnessing with love. Remember, you can simply use the phrase, I love you, in your mind and direct that to whatever's arising. Or any other way of sending love that feels right for you. It might be different for different things. Another thing that can help is to smile. So as you're offering love to these parts of yourself, smile. That's one tool you could try. And another option, something else to try, either along with the smiling or instead of the smiling, is to just place a hand on your heart. And maybe a hand on your stomach. Or maybe a hand anywhere else in the body that feels like it needs love and support in that physical way. And then just keep offering love. Remember, if there's something that you're sure doesn't deserve love, that you should actually be sending extra love to that part, to that self. And if you're feeling distracted, you send love to that feeling of being distracted, that self that's distracted. There's no distraction in this practice. It's all just love. Fully seeing and accepting whatever's arising. And loving it. space all around your body, the feeling of it. We're just going to use our imagination for a moment. I want you to imagine that space all around you, that space that continues further than we could possibly comprehend. Let's just imagine that space itself is love. And that love is moving through you. You yourself are a part of it. So every breath, every thought, every sensation is love. Love is holding you from every direction. As you take this in, any part of your experience that is not integrated with this love begins to integrate. It doesn't matter if it's quote unquote negative. It gets to be a part of the love too. There is nothing that doesn't belong. It's all one never-ending expanse of love. Including the part of you that doesn't buy into this. We're just using our imagination. There's nothing to buy into. And if you allow yourself to go there, you might notice that it feels good. It feels good in a way that isn't sticky and personal. It feels good in a way that feels like home. Now, slowly, 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 begin to gather your attention to your stomach and to your chest. And maybe take that hand and place it on the stomach and the chest, one each. Just feel your body. Here you are. This is your body. This is the support of your hands on your body. That's what this feels like. And feel your butt on the cushion. That's what your butt feels like on the cushion or the chair. And feel the wet or dry of your mouth. That's what your mouth feels like. your stomach and your chest rise and fall as you breathe. Your hands lifting and falling as you breathe. Good. And slowly, as you're ready, release your hands and just take your time, opening your eyes if they're closed, just letting in the candlelight for a moment.